From our studios this week in Los Angeles and Tampa, this is Green Tech Theme Park in 30. I'm Philip from Gantom Lighting and Controls, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Scott Swanson of Scott Swanson Creative Development. On Green Tag, we look at the top news each week, and we pick the stories we think are most important to theme park professionals, and we discuss them here on the show. And this week, I guess we have to discuss United Parks earnings, but we're going to try and get to the new Sphere location as well after that, and maybe some talk about Tokyo Disney. So first, I don't know. So we were asked.
Wait. Is it Six Flags? Tell me it's not Six Flags.
We don't have any Six Flags today.
No Six Flags. This is a Six Flags free episode. Just wanted to point
Sorry to those of you that listen just for Six Flags.
Just for Six Flags stuff. I know everybody does, and it's a big news. It's important, but we just have to. Sometimes we just have to look elsewhere.
We got to take a break. Actually, Six Flags' earnings were much better than United Parks' earnings.
Oh, you had to go there, huh? Okay, you had to go there. Great.
I had to go there, right? So we were asked to cover this topic by a few people about the earnings from United Parks, and I don't know. It's to me, it's kind of like as usual, where attendance and revenue were down, losses continue for the first 3 months of 2026 compared to the same period of year. Like everything was bad. There's all bad news all down the line. Everything was bad. And in typical fashion, it's like if we have a bingo card for 2026, one of them is definitely going to be people blaming weather, which they continue to do on this call. And they also
25, 24, 23. Yeah. I think that's the free space in the middle of the card.
It's like, here we are. And so what Swanson said specifically, he said, first quarter results fell short of our expectations, primarily due to unfavorable weather, including unfavorable weather in San Diego and Florida in January and February, and again in Florida and Texas during their peak spring break season, and a decline in international attendance. And then he went on to do some weird math where he said, if more people had come to the parks, we would have had actually higher attendance. I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said if it weren't for those negative impacts, attendance would have been up. And then you're like, right, if more people had gone to the park, attendance would be up. I guess that is a true statement.
Pretty hard to argue. Pretty hard to argue with that kind of logic. That's pretty solid math.
I can't. What else? So there were a few bright spots. The only two bright spots I saw in everything is that there was an increase in park per cap spending, which was up about 5.3% to $40, which is still low, but not as low as it was apparently. And then they also are seeing good sales performance with their annual passes, which are up approximately 10% during the quarter and 12% through April 30th. And then we get to what they did about it, which this is the thing that's causing all the controversy online, right? Which is basically they bought back more stock because they continue to believe or say that they think they're being undervalued, which is so
our attendance was down, our revenue was down, but we're buying back more stock because we feel we're undervalued.
You got it. See, you could be on the board.
No thanks. The only reason I'd want to be on the board right now is if it had a really good golden parachute. That's
probably what's going on. So Swanson said directly, we continue to strongly believe our stock is materially undervalued and as such continued to repurchase shares in the first quarter, buying approximately 2.6 million shares for nearly $93 million. This action emphasizes the strong cash flow generation of this company, our longstanding commitment to returning excess cash to our shareholders, and our belief that our shares are materially undervalued. So sure. They finished everything by giving it kind of a list of things they had planned for 2026, which includes the SeaWorld San Antonio Barracuda Strike, the San Diego new shark encounter that's opening this month. Busch Gardens Tampa will soon open the all-new line in Hyena Ridge, and SeaWorld Orlando is refreshing Expedition Odyssey, and Williamsburg is opening a revamped version of the Verbolten roller coaster.
So let's just look at this for a hot second. This is their list of new things. And
half of which are refurbished things.
The majority of which are refurbished. When I saw Lion and Hyena Ridge, the idea, here's a concept. We're going to put lions and hyenas in alternating habitats so that they can actually smell each other and have that sort of enrichment. And oh, you mean like we did when we opened Edge of Africa, God knows how many years ago. It's so there's that. Let's take a roller coaster that we already have and was the bloom was off the rose. So let's create a new scene for that. Let's refresh. I love the fact that it's just called Refresh. Let's refresh Expedition Odyssey, which again is not really new. This is, I'm sorry. It kills me to say that, but this is truly polishing a turd. I don't understand. It to me, this list, I would have just left this list off. Because this list, when you look at it, this list, and I don't know, maybe I'm reading between the lines too much, but it basically shows desperation. It's like, we've got to do something new. It saddens me. I mean, again, anybody who's watched the show for any length of time knows that I worked for Busch Gardens for 20 some years.
Yeah.
And and I've been gone for 11. So it saddens me that this is the story. This is the picture they're painting. Our attendance is down. Our revenue is down. We're buying back stock because we feel we're undervalued. And here's our list of new things, which the majority of them are actually just refurbishing stuff that already exists and calling it new.
That's right. Yeah. I'll read his exact quote here, because it gets a little bit more. He says, as a reminder for 2026, we have a truly great lineup of new rides, shows, and attractions, an updated events calendar, an expanded concert lineup, and a new and upgraded food and retail locations. All of this is supported by a revamped and enhanced marketing plan and strategy. We are confident that these planned investments will drive attendance and guest spending across all parks. Despite the headwinds in the first quarter, we are encouraged by our forward indicators and remain committed to delivering strong financial performance and growth in revenue in adjusted EBITDA in 2026. And then he goes on to list those things as the main item. So he did reference, I don't know, food and calendar and whatever, but I just think that the difference is staggering, in terms of, even if you're comparing it to Six Flags or Disney or Universal, all the things that he said, I mean, those are don't even make it into the earnings call, right? Like Six Flags had gone around and did all of the holiday announcements and all of the bringing back all these shows and all that. That didn't even make it into the earnings because they were talking about the big things that they have planned. And, same with this is like them saying, well, we're going to put a new show out for Christmas, or we're bringing, whatever. It's very thin. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking that too. It's like there's no investment.
And that may be the reality, is that they simply don't have the money to invest, or can't figure out where they can take money that looks like it makes sense to invest. I will say that with Busch Gardens, because I still have quite a few people I know who still work there, and what ends up happening is my heart goes out to them, because what they're doing is they're now relying, what used to be oh yeah, that's nice, you go do your festivals, do your Halloween thing, do your Christmas thing, well, now there is, you can't go to Busch Gardens when there's not some sort of festival going on, whether it's
right.
Summer nights, beer. What's the beer fest? There's a beer fest. There's a food and wine fest. There's Glory at the Gardens, which happens, and they all overlap now. So they're all, it's like, here's the festival, and then this weekend it's Glory at the Gardens, and then the following weekend it is. I feel sorry for a couple different groups. Number one, I feel sorry for, obviously, the team that I worked on for so many years, and that is the people who actually have to put up these different events and take them down and change them over. And because when you overlap them like this, you spend a lot of time spinning your wheels. You're putting lipstick on a pig. It's the same, it's the same basic stage, but you put up different banners and call it something different and change out your band. And, but I also feel sorry for the marketing team, because when you have all of these festivals, because again, part of the reason they're doing this is because festivals make money for them. And they discovered that several years ago. And they have in the grand scheme of things, have low capital investment and usually a relatively high return. But I will say the one of the core problems, if you and I'm not saying this because I've experienced it. I will be honest. I have not been back to. I've been to the SeaWorld parks. Last time I was back at the Busch Gardens Park was for Howl-O-Scream last year, and that was just to run around and have a good time. But as far as the core product goes, if you look it up online, the number one complaint is not everything is open. It's there was somebody who was joking. They said, in every 2-train coaster had 1 train running, and 2 of those coasters weren't open at all, and 1 of them closed early. And and I'm not saying that they'll say it's because of some sort of safety something or something like that. I want to believe that, but I also think it's a strong possibility that it could conceivably have something to do with the fact that they don't have enough staff to run it. So I wish I could sit here and say, well, I don't believe any of this malarkey, but this is their words, not mine. So when they say their revenue is down, when they say their attendance is down, and of course, what are they going to say? Well, we've got a new robust marketing plan, and it will change this, which is usually the tagline of every single bad earnings report. I don't know how to. I don't know how. I want so badly to put a happy ending on this story, but I don't see what it is. And I'm afraid that if I say something that is, well, but it's possible that they could do this, it sounds insincere, because I don't see good choices being made, number one. And maybe it's time to right size.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to 86 everything except the SeaWorld parks. And I say that as a former Busch Gardens employee, which just kills me. But maybe that's the way to get things back in line. Maybe it's time for some major shakeups on the corporate level. Maybe that's the way to get it back in line. Maybe it's I don't know. I have no insider information whatsoever. But I just will say it is very sad to see reports like this for a company that I worked very hard for, was very proud to be a part of the team for 21 years. And to see this is disheartening. So I'm hoping that they can find a solution. I'm hoping that everything they say is right and comes to fruition, that their robust new marketing plan is going to fix things, and that all of a sudden there won't be bad weather in Florida or Texas or California. It'll never rain again, and all those. I really hope, because I want these parks to come back. I want them to be vibrant, because I will tell you, in their heyday, Busch Gardens Tampa, Busch Gardens Williamsburg worked in both of those parks boots on the ground worked in those parks. SeaWorld Orlando, SeaWorld San Diego, SeaWorld Texas, they were all really fun, vibrant parks filled with great entertainment, really cool rides. But now it's like, let's do Verbolten 2 Electric Boogaloo. So it's I feel so bad saying that. That's what just kills me.
Yeah. One of the one of the theories that's floating around out there, of course, is that they're doing a lot of the stock buybacks in anticipation of selling something or selling land, doing some sort of maneuver of that kind. And I think that's reasonable. But, also to your point, I think it's interesting to look at the different strategies here. We've talked about all the different park strategies, and I think it's like a little bit of a spectrum, right? It's like we've talked a lot about how do you balance the seasonal stuff with the big tentpole attractions. And it seems like this is the opposite end of that, where it's all just there's no really temple attractions. It's really all just we're doing these seasonal festivals and we're kind of overdoing it. So I think it does show that there's a way to overdo seasonal stuff as well.
Well, I think you overdo it because you got to do something. You know.
Right.
So,
well, anyway, okay, yeah, let's. Yeah, I know everyone it's funny because when people ask me to talk about this, I was like, well, it's the same old thing. And I almost don't even consider them a theme park company anymore just because of the ownership structure and really I think what they're trying to do, which really is just sell or move properties around. But yeah, I was like, well, we could talk about them, but it's the same old, same old.
I think, to be honest, I'd give them even more props if they were, diversifying and becoming less of a theme park company.
Right.
Because clearly the theme park stuff based on these numbers ain't working.
Yep. Okay. Well, let's go somewhere else that Scott has had experience in, which is the Middle East. So we got the announcement this last week about the next Sphere installation, and it's going to be going to Miral's Yas Island with construction set to finish by 2029. It's going to cost 1.7 billion US dollars. It'll be a 20,000 seat venue, and it's going to go right next to SeaWorld Abu Dhabi and the Yas Mall, which for those of you that maybe forgot or weren't listening that long, that's where Scott was stationed. Scott was stationed there at SeaWorld Abu Dhabi. He was on the opening team there and worked on the dolphin show. And so it's going to be, so he intimately knows exactly where this is going in there. And so I'll read here a little bit from the tourism ministry in the area. They said, Abu Dhabi has always built for the long term, and Sphere Abu Dhabi is a powerful demonstration of that commitment. In a region where the appetite for world-class experiences continues to grow, our US dollar 1.7 billion investment in its construction phase sends a clear signal. Abu Dhabi is open, ambitious, and unwavering in its direction. This project reflects the strength of Abu Dhabi's international partnerships, built on shared ambition and mutual confidence in what this Emirati represents as a global destination. Together, we are creating a venue that will draw our community visitors and creators and investors to Yas Island and Abu Dhabi for decades to come. So I have thoughts, but I want to hear, Scott, what do you think of this announcement?
It's not at all surprising. I'm sorry, I'm trying to see exactly where it's going. Because when you say that, I know let me put it this way. I could walk there from where I lived in the hotel. I know roughly where it's going. But if you think about it, you look at Yas Island and say what you want about the Middle East. I'm not even going to go into that. But if you look at Yas Island, they are putting everything, and this was the design of the city. They're putting everything on the island, on the tourism island. There's also a museum island that is where the Louvre is and where the Guggenheim is going. So, to me, this makes total sense. I will say there's a much smaller version of the Sphere, significantly smaller, but it looks like it had a baby. That's in Riyadh, that's in Saudi Arabia, at Boulevard City. But this is clearly huge, and I hope they use it the same way they're using it in Vegas. I hope they bring in concerts, which I'm sure they will. I hope that they'll be able to fill 20,000 seats. Because when I was there in 23, the tourism hadn't quite tipped. So, and they weren't ready for that kind of those kinds of audiences. I don't know whether you can hear that or not, but there's a thunderstorm going on here in Tampa. But they weren't ready for those kinds of audiences. So I'm hoping that with this expansion, there's two things they really need to focus on, and that is one, transportation on the island itself. When I was there in 23, they were beta testing. Autonomous buses, autonomous taxi cabs. but they really need to get some sort of, they need the Disney Skyliner to get them around the island.
Yep. Yep.
They need something like that. So that's the first thing I would say they need to look at. And the second thing they need to look at is training the local staff how to handle large crowds, because they're not ready for it yet. They think they are, but they're not ready for it yet. And that's going to be even more important, considering that, Disney's just around the corner as well.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things.
I think looking at it from a strategic standpoint, because I don't have the operational, on the ground perspective that Scott does, but I do agree with the point about the large crowds, because I witnessed that, and I've been there a few times and witnessed that where they just haven't had the training because they haven't quite had the crowds yet to even train on. But I think from a strategic standpoint, this is one of those moves that is surprising yet inevitable, right? I think when you read the headline, your eyebrows go up a little bit, and then you go, of course, because right now, I think it's a PR problem, in that area. Abu Dhabi's been trying to pivot over to the tourism economy, and with the conflict in Iran, the big thing is trying to make it kind of, they don't want to stop the momentum, I think. So you kind of have to reassure all your stakeholders that everything is going forward. That's why Disney, I'm sure, had that sentence in their earnings letter about Disney Abu Dhabi proceeding. And of course, this now coming out, I think they're just trying to manage that expectation to show that they are still proceeding. And then, they're going to have to also manage the idea around safety and making sure that visitors feel safe when going there, especially if the conflict drags out for any longer or any of that kind of stuff. So I think that's those things. But from a strategic standpoint, I think the timing is good, because it's dripping out these announcements to show that that area is still going to retain its tourism infrastructure and its build out. And then also strategically, it makes sense because this Sphere is an indoor venue, and it's kind of a perfect location for this. Also, that idea that's very much the Middle East of the, heavy technology, really big presence, big technology, all that kind of stuff also fits in, I think, with that region. And I think when Sphere was first announced, we talked about it on the show, and I originally had thought that it wasn't, I kind of a little bit was doubting that it was going to be a pay for itself because it's so expensive, but it has proven to work, at least in Vegas. And a lot of that is because of the concerts and of the immersive entertainment, that the kind of this whole idea of the wraparound entertainment, completely wrap around your entire vision and put the concerts, and the Wizard of Oz thing, did really well, and all these things. So I think that they have perfected the business model, and now they're bringing it already perfected, into the Middle East. The problem, of course, is exactly what you say, Scott. It's like that is working because there is the population and the visitor density to pull from. So you can actually sell concerts. You can sell the Wizard of Oz performances. So, that's the only wrinkle is like, is there going to be enough people to really sell that? But also, I don't think it matters. We've talked about this before. It doesn't really, I don't think it has to make money. The timelines in the US for things to make money are very short. And also, just side note, this obsession we have with quarterly earnings is probably why the United Parks is doing so bad, and all these parks are doing so bad, is because we don't have that long-term thinking, because we're obsessed with every quarter making money in the US. So it's a different paradigm, I think, in the Middle East, where they're like, we're investing in an entirely new sector, and I don't think it has to make, if there's no one there, if they don't fill up 20,000 seats in the first 5 years, I don't think it's going to matter. I think it's more about.
That was the mentality behind Ferrari World and the mentality behind Warner Brothers World.
Right.
So that's why I say, if this does, the best thing and the worst thing that could happen is that they start to fill these 20,000 seats every night or every day or multiple times per day, because they just don't know how to handle those kinds of people, or they didn't in 23. I haven't been there in 3 years, so they had challenges dealing with crowds, even small ones, because they just simply weren't used to them. So, and I just looked it up. I just looked it up on the map, and where it is going, just on a personal note, where it is going is literally, if I walked from SeaWorld through the mall to get to my hotel where I lived, It's right in the middle of that.
Oh, that's good. And also it's good because the whole thing with the series, you can see it also. And I think it's good that you'll be able to see stuff at night. Also because it's a night society. And I just, it's so much more impactful at night, the sphere is.
Right.
And then you have this whole society that's built around this at night. So I think it makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah,
I want to wrap
idea.
up. Yep. I want to wrap up with one story, which I think is a good counterbalance because it is showing how a resort can actually combat the weather. Like it's not an impossible thing to do, guys. So Tokyo Disney announced their cool summer. It's called Summer Cool Off is what it's actually called. And this is only the second year they've done this. So they're bringing back Summer Cool Off event for a second year. It runs July 2nd through September 14th at both Tokyo Disney and Tokyo Disney Sea. For 2026, what they've done is they partnered actually with a local, really well-known band called Mrs. Green Apple. And from anime and from Japanese culture, I know them really well. And it's a big deal. It's a big band. And basically it's very similar actually to what Universal has been doing. So they got that band and they're doing two things at the same time. They're adding water literally like everywhere. You could even in places I didn't think you could add water, they're finding a way to add water. And then they're making this custom song from this popular Japanese band and they're putting it at all of these locations. You get to hear it like all over the park and they're having choreography for it. So it's like they're doing this like kind of summer party that has the music, has the dancing, and also has water to cool people off. And I'm like, this is how it should be done. I'm just like, and so to give you an example, I think we're familiar with, the Splash Mountain and the adding extra water, all that. But they're doing more. For those that know Gadget's Go Coaster from Disneyland, the little Gadget's Go Coaster, they have one there at Tokyo Disney. Mm-hmm. And it's a little like family rail. So they basically gone in and added water jets to this ride and they're just spraying you with water as you're going through this. So that's example. They also have a water parade where it's like a cavalcade with Baymax and it's just him shooting water at people. Anyone who seems like they're hot, he has a little energy meter and he's just spraying people with water. And they're adding cool down zones. And I mean, they're adding water to 8 rides, right? And they're, in Splash Mountain, for example, they're not just adding water to the ride so it gets you more wet, but they're also adding jets to the outside of the ride so people watching the ride also get wet. So they're just literally, it's crazy the amount of just putting water everywhere. They're putting this fun summer vibe. They're also, of course, they're bringing in summer food and, a lot of ice-based things and stuff to cool down. But to me, I just think this is so fantastic because it does these two things, right? It helps mitigate the heat and it also engages the locals. So it's literally,
I love it. You've turned it. They've basically turned the park into this is the summer park for the locals, which I think is super smart. And culturally, and I'm asking Philip, is this getting wet like this? Is this culturally acceptable?
Yeah, so that is the thing that I thought was really interesting because to me, I think I'm not sure this would work in America because I'm not sure. I actually don't know. I mean, we have water parks here. We have all this kind of stuff.
It wouldn't work in the Middle East,
right? Yeah. So I think here they have Japan has done stuff like this before, and especially Universal has done water stuff before. So I think it's not unheard of. So I do think. From what I can tell, yes, it does work. And it's usually where the kids or the teenagers are the ones that are, and they've done it in a way where they've almost set up like splash zones. So you can still stay dry. It's not like you're going to be surprise wet. Like, they basically have partitioned it where they've kind of just made splash zones throughout the entire resort. And I think that's probably a smart way to do it because it allows people to opt in. So if you're not comfortable getting wet, you can do that. But I think then the kids and the people that are, and also it's just different in Japan. It's very hot during the summers and they use less AC. It's similar to China where it's like, people have found other ways to stay cool because they don't use as much energy. Like in Europe, we use a lot of AC where we are, but.
Yeah, well, and the reason I ask is because something like this since we just came out of a story about the UAE,
right?
In the UAE, traditional garb does not look good when it gets wet, and therefore people work very hard to not get wet, which is why, as you mentioned, they're a nocturnal society there, and
Right.
they don't start until the sun goes down. And so yeah, that's I just wanted to make sure, I just wanted to ask, because that's the thing that I think when we get into a more and more of a global market, we have to kind of go, is this going to work culturally?
Yeah.
And
Culturally, are
it
people
sounds
going to opt in?
and
Yeah.
it sounds like they are. The other thing that I think is fun about this too is, if you don't want to get wet, I'm hoping they've set it up so that you can watch other people get wet, because
Yes.
nothing makes people laugh more than to see a 5-year-old get soaked and start to giggle,
Yep.
So
Yeah, I think especially on the parade route, you can stand outside of the wet zone, basically on the little parade route, and then people in the route, get sprayed, and Baymax is coming through. So,
and it's
it's just
Baymax. You
really
can't get mad, can't get angry at Baymax.
that's right. That's right, and it's such a good play to the locals, because it involves local IP, and also shows that they're trying to mitigate the heat, so that to encourage local people to visit. And what have we been talking about is lean local. That's all we've been saying right now with all these
Yep.
challenges.
Yep. Well, we're gonna lean to not doing the show anymore because we're done. Not anymore. We'll do it next week. We're done for the week. How's that? That was a really bad transition. Anyway, guys, once again, I say this every week, and I really do mean it. I'm very sincere when I say thank you so much for listening. I love it when you guys comment. I love it when you guys come up to me and talk to me at trade shows, and if you see me out and about. And I know Philip does too. So please continue to do that. We love to hear your comments. We love the fact that you feel this is viable for you, that we are raising questions and sharing our insight, and hopefully it will continue to make this industry better in the future. On behalf of Philip Hernandez with Gantom Lighting and Control, and myself, Scott Swanson with Scott Swanson Creative Development, this is Green Tag Theme Park in 30, and we'll see you next week.